Ahead of Nigeria's 2027 election, the Independent National Electoral Commission is sounding the alarm over early political maneuvering, warning parties to respect the electoral calendar. At the same time, INEC has formally acknowledged the David Mark-led African Democratic Congress, also known as the ADC, a move that could reshape opposition dynamics and steer fresh calculation among power blocs. Now, joining me to discuss this is Mr. Rotimi Oyekanmi, is the Chief Press Secretary to the INEC Chairman. Thank you for your time, sir.
Thank you for having me. Good evening.
Good evening. It's great to have you again. So let me start by asking this recent alarm by the Commission as regards the activities of what I call it early campaigns right now. I want to ask, what has the Commission observed recently?
Thank you very much. Like every other Nigerian that has seen actions taken by certain individuals, we have seen posters in major cities. We have had interviews granted in the media, both on television and radio. And the conversation about the 2027 general election has started in earnest. And it appears to us that people are deliberately engaging in what can be termed as a sort of campaign for that election. Unfortunately, the Commission has not released the timetable and schedule of activities for the election. That will happen in February 2026. Therefore, we became concerned about that, plus the fact that some Nigerians were calling on the Commission to take action and referring us to some of the things that we have observed ourselves. So it's very clear that politicians are in the election mode already.
You said some Nigerians who observed it were urging you to take action. I mean, these Nigerians, are they politicians or just ordinary Nigerians like you and I? Who are they?
We see newspaper publications every day. We hear what comments people say on the radio and television. Not necessarily politicians, but Nigerians generally have been, talking about this, that look, when, for instance, in the street of Abuja, they are going from one place to the other, or on the way to the airport, for instance, they see posters. And these posters are talking clearly about the possibility of somebody emerging as the president in 2027. And, just like Nigerians have observed, we have also observed. So that's the situation. It's not necessarily politicians. Nigerians generally are complaining and talking about this every day in the media.
All right. Now, we know that Section 94, subsection 1 of the Electoral Act of 2022 prohibits campaigns earlier than 150 days before polling. But, I mean, maybe you might also, if I'm wrong here, you might want to correct me, but there seems to be no penalty for early campaigns, only fines for campaigning too close to election day. So, I mean, if there are no penalties, are they really breaking the law here?
That's the big question, and that was precisely the reason why INEC convened a stakeholders meeting a couple of days ago to discuss this matter. And we invited major stakeholders, the regulatory bodies for advertising, the Nigerian Bar Association, and civil society organizations to discuss this matter and look at how we can, deal with the issue. Because just like you rightly said, while the law prohibits a campaign before 150 days to the election, and of course, even if you embark on that, 150 days to the election, it must end 24 hours to the election. The only penalty in the Electoral Act, unfortunately, is those who engage in campaign 24 hours to the election. And even the penalty is the slap on the wrist. So because there is no sanction for those who engage in campaign before the 150-day benchmark, then it looks like they are not committing any offense, when in the real sense, they are committing an offense. In other jurisdictions, this will be viewed seriously. But because there is that lacuna, we just felt that with the discourse and from what emerged and recommendations that came out is that now that the National Assembly is trying to rejig the Electoral Act, maybe there should be a form of insertion to prescribe penalties specifically for any individual or group that engages in that kind of activity before we blow the whistle.
All right, Mr. Rotimi. Now, just for clarity and for the benefit of people watching and maybe politicians too, what constitutes this contravention of early campaigns? Because what I'm asking is, we are seeing politicians, have meetings. We are seeing coalitions happening. We are seeing them talking, on public platforms, even on social media. Does all of that activity that we see, even though we see it on the rise now, does it also constitute campaign? Are they in any way contravening the law, or is it just limited to pasting of posters and billboards?
Thank you very much. This is a very important question. Nigerians can have conversations about the 2027 general election, of course. Conversations around voter registration, about polling units, about government policies, about even what they aspire will happen. There are benchmarks with United Nations, education for all, health for all, and all of that, and compare the political situation in Nigeria with other countries that are relatively close to us in terms of development and all that. But what is not acceptable is to say that, somebody is going to contest for this office in this election, therefore, people should vote for that person in advance. That will constitute illegality. But just like I said, as for conversations, you can't have conversations because in any case, the Constitution gives every Nigerian the right to freedom of expression. But that freedom of expression must also be exercised with some caution so that you will not found to be violating the electoral law. Because the law has stated clearly that you cannot do this before 150 days to the election. So if you do it, it's an offense, even though the same Electoral Act did not prescribe a penalty for those who engage in it. So that's the difference. Having conversations generally about the general election or even the 2031 general election or even beyond that, because of course we organize general elections every 4 years, but you cannot be advocating for a particular individual that Nigerians should vote for that person or this person is going to contest for this office in the 2022 general election. That is a campaign and it's clearly not legal.
All right. Even though we understand that for now there are no punitive measures for this, is the Commission, putting anything in place to sort of put a check to this? Or has it even drawn up a list of maybe early violators?
Thank you very much. We meet with our stakeholders every quarter, and political parties are one of our key stakeholders. Now, under our laws, no individual can contest for election unless that individual is sponsored by a political party. So essentially, the Nigerian registered political parties meet with us every quarter. In the last meeting, we drew their attention to it because, if you aspire to occupy public office, then you must lead by example. Lead by example by obeying the laws of the land. You shouldn't be seen to be running any show in violation of that law. And that's the essence of it. Because, law-abiding citizens will not test the will of the law before they try to obey it. Once something is deemed illegal, once something is deemed unconstitutional, you are expected as a right-thinking Nigerian, whether you are even occupying public office or not to go in contravention of that thing. So we have spoken to leaders of political parties, and they are aware of this problem, and we expect that they will respect the law and the promises they gave that, look, these are things that we will not engage in moving forward.
All right, Mr. Rotimi Oyekanmi, we'll definitely continue this conversation after this break. We'll expand the conversation to look at the outcome of the by-elections ahead of 2027, if there are takeaways, and also the continuous voter registration and some concerns raised around it. Stay with us, we'll be right back. Many thanks for staying with us. I still have Mr. Rotimi Oyekanmi as the Chief Press Secretary to the INEC Chairman as my guest this evening. Thank you for staying with me, sir. Now, let's talk about the continuous voter registration that, started, and Nigerians are, already participating. However, there are concerns around technicality. There are also concerns around even awareness, some not being, aware of the process, and even enlightenment on how to go about it. I would like to believe that the Commission maybe is aware of these concerns and what it's doing to address it.
Thank you very much. We are trying our best through the available means that we have to bring about awareness about the CVR. But we also rely on our partners to help us as they have always done. That's the civil society organizations and all of that. Now, you agree with me that Nigeria is a very large country. We have 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory. 774 local governments. Even if we, channel all the funds that we have into advertising in the media, I'm sure that we will not still be able to create enough awareness. But of course, we have done that. We are still doing it, and we are making use of our social media platforms. And we are quite comfortable with social media platforms because we know that young Nigerians prefer that platform. That's where they meet and interact and hold conversations. And we believe that we can reach more of them who can also help us to replicate what they have seen, what they have read, and bring about awareness. But again, I want to appeal to our partners to please create awareness on our behalf to say, look, this is the time to register because we have a whole year to do it. And it's a continuous process. But we will continue to try our best from our end. And we also want to appeal to all Nigerians to create awareness that, look, once you are up to 18 years old and you have never registered before, please go to the nearest registration center and register. Or you can also go online to pre-register. That means you upload all your details, then pick the nearest registration center to you, and then pick a date and go and validate your registration. Validation means that they will capture your biometrics and some other sundry things that you need to do.
All right. Let's talk about the by-elections that we experienced in some parts of the country. I'm going to ask you, as a commission, are there takeaways from these elections that happened? Can you confidently say that, compared to the elections we've had before these by-elections, there was truly an improvement in the quality of the outcomes?
Well, the first thing I would like to say is that in terms of the technology we deployed, we had excellent performance. The beavers functioned well. The IREF functioned well. We had over 95% upload in real time. And of course, for accreditation, Nigerians were able to get accredited. We had 16 by-elections, and, across the board, the reports we got was very encouraging. But again, the issue of violence came up in a place like Zamfara. There was violence. In fact, they couldn't conclude the election. They had to, organize another election to be able to declare a winner. So that's the issue with the security problem in some of the states. But other than that, in terms of logistics, it was improved. It's an isolated off-cycle by-election. So we're able to mobilize resources from other states to where those resources are needed. So that improved the logistical compliance that we normally have for elections of this nature. But in any case, those 16 by-elections, by no means are not small, as some people might think, because if you look at the total number of registered voters, is what would constitute a general election in some sister African countries. But I think that this attitude of certain politicians, we need to address it in terms of violence. I think we should have outgrown violence right now.
So right now, one of the biggest concerns that you would say the agency, is having from, conducting these by-elections, for instance, and has been maybe much, a recurrent decimal, is the issue of violence by politicians. That's what you're saying.
Well, yeah, supporters of politicians unleash violence on our staff, on voters. They disrupt election. They won't do that on their own. They are working on behalf of certain politicians, and some of them were actually arrested. So what I'm saying is that I think it's high time that we play by the rules. There is no point unleashing violence on election day. No election day is worth the life of a human being. So let's just play by the rules and let Nigerians decide. Let the voters decide who they want. You have the opportunity of campaign. You have your manifesto. Sell your ideas. Convince voters and believe that anything, whatever happens is the wish of the people. But when you try to gain advantage, and it's a fruitless exercise, because those who caused, for instance, violence in Zamfara, they didn't achieve anything, because we now had to go and issue another date for the election. So you haven't gained anything anyway. So it's a fruitless exercise. So those are the takeaways that we had.
Okay, and I'm going to also put it to you directly. How ready, in terms of preparation, is the commission ahead of 2027? We know that soon we'll start seeing some governorship elections happen in some states, but the big one being the general election. You've said there have been some improvements with the beavers and all of that, but how ready is the commission ahead of 2027?
Now, let me say this. The conclusion of a general election kickstarts preparation for the next one. A general election is a very serious endeavor. It's a serious undertaking. It's like military going to war, because you are holding an election in 774 local governments, 36 states simultaneously. Polling units open by 8:30. They are expected to close by 2:30. Results are counted and declared at the polling unit. Collation starts and ends in Abuja National Collation Center in the case of the presidential election. So it involves a lot of logistics. In the 2020 general election, we deployed over 1 million ad hoc staff, and we need thousands and thousands of vehicles for deploying tow and reverse logistics and all of that. So part of our preparation is the CVR that we have started, because voters between that 2023 and now, many Nigerians have turned 18. Many Nigerians have moved from where they were living before to another place, and they must have the opportunity to vote, because the law says that you can only vote where you are registered. So we need to allow those who have turned 18 that are never registered before to register. We also need those who are over 18 that have also never voted or registered before to do that, because the more the merrier. Our democracy is about numbers. Then, of course, there are other preparations going on. Because of the timeline that we have, we are training people, we are training our staff, we are putting the logistics in place, and we are looking at the project, because we have a strategic plan, a 5-year strategic plan that enumerates all the things we need to do. We have the election project plan that also talks about what we need to do, at the time we need to do it, and what must be done as in each year, in each month, in each quarter. So we tick up these boxes. So this is something we are experiencing, and of course the various elections, off-cycle elections that we are also conducting is helping us to improve. We've just had 16 by-elections. Okay. We're going to have Anambra governorship election. Next year we will have other governorship election, and then there is also FCT area council election.
All right. Just before I let you go, let's look at INEC and its role when it comes to internal party, will I call it wranglings or crisis. For some political parties, for instance, the ADC, in terms of its leadership, we know that INEC, on your portal, you have where you list, every party, its leaders, its ESCOs, and all of that. And quite a number of these political parties are experiencing internal, crisis. They have cases in court. We have ADC, like I mentioned, the NMPP is there, amongst the, others too. So I just want you to be clear on how INEC makes a decision in, should parties have factions, for instance, in determining which faction, the commission would listen to and say, you know what, based on this is why we have their names uploaded as ESCOs of the party and are officially recognized by the commission.
Thank you very much. Good question. INEC does not deal with factions in a political party. We deal with authentic leaders, duly elected political parties. Remember, when political parties want to hold their conventions for the purpose of electing national officers, they are required by the Electoral Act to invite INEC. And in fact, they also need to give notice. They need to give adequate notice, and we need to monitor the elections. And once that is done, then they submit the list of these new ESCOs, national chairman, national secretary, and so on and so forth. And we take that based on internal democracy, based on the rules and regulations or the constitution of each political party. Every party has a constitution. Every party has its own rules and regulations. So every party is required to follow those rules. Now, it's normal. There could be disagreements within political parties. But of course, they also have their internal mechanisms of resolving these differences. If those internal mechanisms don't work, they can approach INEC for alternative dispute resolution. We have a whole department of ADhere that we can intervene on their behalf when they invite us, and we help them to resolve these issues. But at the extreme, if they don't want that, they can then approach the court. But in our books, at any point in time, we know who the national officers are. So if there are factions and they are in court, we don't have any business with what is in court. But what we are going to now act on is if there is a valid court judgment or order to say INEC refuse to recognize the current leaders of Party A and put this as the leaders of Party A, then of course, we have to obey court order. We will then delete the names of the current officers of that particular Party A and then put the one that the court said we should recognize, and we will then create a column to say by court order. So that's how we operate.
All right. So in case the cases are in court, you usually make reference to the fact that these decisions that was made by the commission was based on court order, right? Is that what you're saying, sir?
Yes. If there is a court order, if, for instance, officers were elected, Party A has its own national chairman, national secretary, and so on and so forth, and another faction, for whatever reason, goes to court to challenge the leadership, and the court decides in that faction's favor and asks INEC to recognize the factional leader as the new national chairman, we will do so. And in doing so, we will also list on our website in a column to say by court order, because it's usually by court order. So we will always comply with court order. But if cases are in court and they are not yet resolved, we don't have any business with that.
All right. But just one last thing, Mr. Rotimi, before I let you go. There are calls from some quarters that INEC should take up the responsibility of conducting local government elections. We know that at that level, it's usually the state, individual states that arrange it. Is this a challenge the commission is willing to take up?
Well, it's not a challenge. We have said it before that the commission is capable of conducting local government elections. Remember, we conduct area council elections in the FCT, and that is the only place in this country where no one party will win all the seats, as you find in other local government elections across the states. So if you check the history of the FCT area council elections, no one party dominates. And that is because we obey the rules and the elections are free and fair.
All right, thank you so much. Rotimi Oyekanmi is the Chief Press Secretary to the INEC Chairman. Once again, thank you for your time on the program. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
All right.